Whether or not you like Bill Clinton, you have to admit that the Clinton years were nothing if not entertaining. And I guess you could sort of say the same for Gaddafi. That guy was basically a cartoon dictator. He dressed like Michael Jackson, he set up a brigade of all-female bodyguards, and he kept a scrapbook of pictures of Condoleezza Rice, on whom he apparently had a crush. You remember that scene in the second Hot Shots movie where they break into Saddam Hussein's palace and he's watching Arsenio Hall and masturbating with a dustbuster? That was obviously a sort of comedic parody of what Saddam Hussein was really like, but that's sort of the reality of what Gaddafi was really like. The Zucker brothers could not have made up a dictator like Gaddafi. He was just that goofy. But it was because of this. It was because of Gaddafi's sort of detachment from reality that I think he met the end that he did. From the beginning of the revolution in Libya, you could tell that Gaddafi was not going to have the same good sense that Mubarak did to step down when it was clear that he was not going to win this. And although Mubarak did not leave as quickly as people would have liked, Mubarak was at least able to recognize at some point that he was not going to continue to be the dictator of Egypt, and that he was either going to leave office voluntarily, or his own people were going to break down his door and tear him to pieces. But you could tell with Gaddafi from early on that he was not going to have the same common sense. He was not going to be able to recognize when he was facing that same scenario. When things got bad, he doubled down. When the revolution started as just protests, he sent his men in to fire live ammunition into the crowd. He ordered people to kill paramedics who were trying to help the wounded. And then he sent people into the hospitals to tear the IVs out of the arms and execute those who did manage to survive. They would attack funerals, and those soldiers who refused to participate in this were executed. And when it did become clear to everybody but Gaddafi that he was not going to win this, he did not give up. He still would not go peacefully. When Tripoli fell to the rebels and Gaddafi wasn't there, I thought that maybe that meant that he had at least been wise enough to have himself smuggled out of the country. But no, he had simply backed himself into a corner in Sirte. And if it had been up to me, I would have preferred Gaddafi to have been taken alive and tried. But he was not fighting against a trained and disciplined military force. He was fighting against a mob that he had whipped into a frenzy through months of brutalization. Now you may say that this does not justify the way he was killed, but I think you'd have to be extremely naive not to understand that this does at least explain why he was killed the way he was.